Welcome back to Land to Dad. Emma is eating right now. We thought we would talk a little bit about Ashley's experience with labor and delivery.
We might be interrupted by a screaming baby.
Yeah, we'll probably be interrupted, so just ignore us. Okay, so where to begin? We went to the hospital, I guess?
Well, we went past our due date, and so we had an appointment when I was 41 weeks and a day, and they decided to induce that evening.
Yeah, so we went to
That was on Tuesday, the 28th of February.
Yeah, so whenever we went to that appointment, that was the week after your due date, you were hooked up to some monitors, and they were checking for...
They did a stress test to see how Emma reacted to contractions, and for a while, she wasn't reacting, or there was not enough...
They thought maybe she was asleep during the test, and so when she would have a contraction, Emma was supposed to react, and her heart rate would go up, and then when contraction would stop, heart rate go back down, but there was no variation. But then, after like 45 minutes of sitting there...
It finally came back up, but they were kind of concerned.
And so the doctor also said during that appointment that your fluid...
My amniotic fluid was low.
Yeah, so that even if we weren't going in to be induced, he would send us anyway because it was so low. So we came back home and we got some sleep, or tried to sleep that evening.
We didn't come back home. You made us stay in Asheville all day.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm glad you're here because I wouldn't remember this stuff. So I made us stay in Asheville all day.
Our hospital is... Okay, stop. Our hospital is like an hour and a half from where we live. And so our appointment was at like 10:45 that morning. And because of they had to monitor her heart rate for a good like hour and a half after our appointment. It was like 2 or 3 o'clock by the time we got out of there. And we had to be at the hospital at 8 that evening. So we just decided to stay out there because we just figured coming home would be kind of redundant.
Yeah, all of our bags were packed from like a month before.
They were already in the car, so we just kind of loafered, and then we met up with my family and ate supper, and we decided to go on to the hospital at 7 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock, which worked out because a woman had canceled her induction, so they just went ahead and got us set up or whatever.
And so we get there, and they hook Ashley up to all the machines.
They take my blood, which was the start of everything.
Oh, yeah.
The nurse took my blood, and she's like, I'm really messy. And I'm looking away because needles, make me sick. And I feel a spray, and I look down, and there's blood all over her, all over the floor.
Yeah, I don't know what her deal was, but...
That was the start of it.
Like a lot of phlebotomists, they remove the glove off of this finger to do their work. Well, she pulls up, and there's like blood dripping down into her glove. And it's like, woman, what have you done? So...
She's like, oh, I've made a mess.
Yeah. And then she stood up, and it was like all over her pants. I'm just glad you didn't pass out from blood loss.
Yeah.
And she just needed like 2 little vials is all she needed.
Yeah. So they hooked me up to monitors to check Emma's heart rate and my heart rate and the contractions. And after they did that, they decided to go ahead and, before they started the side attack or anything like that, they decided to just get my health history. And while we were doing that, Emma's heart rate dropped to 70 for a good 3 minutes, which scared the crap out of us because they pulled out the oxygen, and they made me get down on all fours, and they started putting IVs in me and stuff.
That room went from one nurse to all the nurses on the floor in just an instant. So your heart rate dropped.
Emma's heart rate dropped.
Yeah, her heart rate dropped. Yours did not.
Mine did not. So at that point, they were really afraid to start the side attack because since even though they got her heart rate to come back up, they didn't want to give me any medicine. The side attack basically makes you thin out because at this point I was like half a centimeter dilated and maybe 75% effaced. But they were afraid to give the side attack because once they gave it to me, if she reacted like that, they couldn't take it back. So they called the doctor on call, and they decided to do the balloon technique, which basically is like they take this long, like catheter-like thing, has a little balloon, and they insert it to your cervix, and they blow it up, and it's supposed to help you dilate.
That's if you're
completely effaced.
Yeah, and what, at least like 1 centimeter or something like that?
Right. So they tried to insert the balloon in me a total of 3 times and failed. And it was the most painful thing ever. Basically they couldn't because my body was not ready for that part yet. They jumped the gun.
The lower part of your cervix was dilated, but the upper part was still closed.
Right. So by the time that they realized that this was not going to work, because they tried several different times, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. We had been there since 7 the night before. Seth was with me, my mom was with me. Cover that by
Your Nana says.
a nanny.
Your nanny says you gotta always cover a baby. Now you're being good.
For now.
So where were we?
The balloon.
Okay, yeah. So the balloon was terrible. Don't do it.
Okay, so finally at 1 o'clock they decided to put this thing, and I don't really remember what it's called, but it looks like a really large tampon, and it has medicine on it to make you start to ripen your cervix pretty much. And so with the same intern that tried the balloon.
So ripening a cervix is not the same as dilating.
The cervix has to be completely thinned out, and then you dilate.
Then you dilate. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't completely thinned out.
Ooh, good one.
I wasn't completely thinned out. So they wanted to do that before they started Pitocin. Anyways, so it's basically a tampon and it has the medicine in it, and they put it up inside your cervix. So the same intern comes in, and she proceeds to put this up into my cervix, which was incredibly painful because I was still really sensitive from them trying to force a balloon onto me. So finally that worked. And the way that works is it has to be inside of you for 12 hours before they can remove it. So our doctor, not the one that was on call that night that suggested the balloon, but the one that was scheduled to deliver Emma, comes in early the next morning expecting to go ahead and start the Pitocin. Had no idea that her heart rate had dropped, or that they had tried the balloon, or anything like that. He thought that we had just went on with the side attack. So he was really upset because he was saying that they had talked to him. He would have told them that the balloon would not have worked at all. So I think he was really frustrated, but they couldn't do anything until 1 o'clock. And he checked me, and I still hadn't dilated or thinned out any more than I was 24 hours before. So he said that he would come back, and if I still hadn't changed, he'd probably end up offering us a C-section. And he seemed like that was the way he wanted to go. So pretty much we couldn't do anything until 1 o'clock. Well, at 1 o'clock he comes in, and
that's 1 a.m.
No, 1 p.m.
Oh, okay.
1 a.m. was when they inserted it.
Okay.
He doesn't know. Don't listen to him.
We didn't sleep much for a couple of days.
Well, the nurse came in. They decided to go ahead and start the Pitocin at 1 o'clock. And he was going to come in after the office closed and check to see where I was. And then they would see if they were going to do a C-section or if I could go ahead and have a vaginal birth. So they started the Pitocin. It's about 1:15. And for a while it was bearable. But as they kept turning the Pitocin up, my contractions started getting more and more painful. So probably about 5 or 6, I was literally in tears. I wanted to wait as long as possible to get the epidural because I didn't want it to wear off. I didn't know how long this process was going to be. But my mom was finally like, Ashley, just get the epidural. You're, causing yourself unnecessary pain. So we got the epidural, which was not that bad. The process was not that bad.
Who's ready? Well, maybe she's just content to sit there.
That's a first. In your 9 days of life. Okay, so
Doctor came in, and you were not ready yet. I guess is maybe.
I know. Talk about the epidural. The process of the epidural. Golly.
There you go.
The process of the epidural was not as bad as I had imagined. That I did still have felt contractions for a little bit on my right side, and so they came back.
So the epidural is only she and one other person, which was me, were allowed to be in the room when they were doing the epidural. So she got on the side of the bed and faced out the window, and I got to sit there and be with her. And so she didn't get to see that. First, they gave a shot to kind of numb the area, and then he pulls out a very large needle, and so I'm glad that neither of us really got to see what was going on back there. But
I would take a really large needle over having a balloon inserted into my cervix.
That was a reoccurring theme. I'd rather have this versus a balloon.
Well, until the rest.
Okay, you can keep going.
But anyways, so I could still feel contractions on my right side. So they came in, they gave me an extra dose. And by that time, some of my friends had came in. My brother was there. And we were all just kind of chatting. And I was feeling pretty good. I felt really kind of loopy. But, I mean, it probably was, the best mood throughout the whole experience.
Well, and you even said that with all the pressure of being pregnant, the epidural helped you, just feel better.
Yeah.
The pressure was gone.
Yeah. So, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours later, I started feeling severe pain in my vaginal area. And it was every time I would have a contraction. I could see the contraction on the screen, but I couldn't feel them in my stomach. And my legs wasn't numb. So the nurse came in and they got the anesthesiologist, I guess, or the nurses, whoever had inserted the epidural, and they had said that what happened was my epidural was going up instead of down. So that's why I could feel everything. And so pretty much the rest of the time, I could feel pretty much, there was no relief. They came in, they did give me some medicine, and it did help me sleep for a good 30 minutes.
They said to fix the epidural, they could either pull it out and do it again,
we didn't want to do that.
Or sit you up more so that it would flow from gravity back to where it's supposed to go.
But it did not work at all. So, what is it? You're eating this thing. At that point, we had been at the hospital since 7 that evening, and my mom, it was maybe 10 o'clock, and my mom decided that she was just going to go home because the nurse told her that she really did not feel like I was going to have the baby that night, because she checked me and I was 3 centimeters dilated. And so my mom went home, and they gave me some medicine and I was able to sleep. I was able to sleep, and Seth fell asleep.
Yeah, I pretty much said goodbye to her mom as I was getting on the floor to sleep. And I bet you before she got to the end of the hall, I was asleep.
So, it was about maybe 30 minutes later, the doctor walks in to check and see where I'm at. And me and Seth are both delirious. Okay. So The doctor comes in about 30 minutes after that to check and see where I'm at. And Seth and I are both literally very delirious at this point in time.
I was asleep.
Well, Seth was asleep while he was checking me. Seth had no idea. He comes up, he checks me, he says, "Oh, you're ready to push." And we're like, "What the crap?" And the nurse says, "Your mom's going to kill me. I told her you was not going to have this baby tonight." So
about that point, when she's like telling her about her mom going to kill her, I like pop open my eyes and I'm awake, kind of, because there's lots of people moving about. And I hear them say, I hear her say, "You need to call Mom and get her back here." And so I'm like staggering around trying to find my phone, mostly asleep. And I call her, and she says, she's waiting for me to be like, "Just kidding." Trust me, after being awake for 2 days, I'm not going to kid around with this.
Mom had made it like maybe like 35 minutes away at that point. My brother had taken her home, so they turned around and came back. And she actually walked in, like, I hadn't been pushing maybe like 10 minutes at that point when she finally walked in. Basically, they set me up to push, and Mom was on one side, Seth was on the other, and pretty basic, you just push. She, like I said, I could still feel pretty much everything that was happening. I could not feel the contractions in my abdomen. I could feel them lower down, and I was able to like kind of move my legs, so I was in a lot of pain. I obviously didn't see this, but Seth and my mom said that they could see Emma's head, and it was every time I would push during contraction, it was like her head would like teeter-totter, like she just didn't want. She was trying to wiggle her way out, but she couldn't come out. So this was like 4.5 hours of pushing.
Long time.
So Dr. Klein comes in and he suggests to do, well, he like watches to see what's going on. So he suggests to do the vacuum, to use the vacuum or whatever. And he said if that does not work after 3 tries, then it'll have to be emergency C-section. I had read horror stories about the vacuum, and so I absolutely did not want to do it. I begged him to let us keep pushing, but he said that after like 2 hours, pushing was pretty much ineffective because I was exhausted. So he did say that we could keep pushing, but Seth said let's just go ahead and do the vacuum.
Because there had really not been much progress in.
There had been no progress.
Hour and a half.
At all. An hour and a half, 4.5. Yeah. At all. There had been no progress at all. So, at this point, when we finally agree that we'll do the vacuum, the room starts filling up with people. Like,
they have to have several different emergency people in there in case something goes wrong, and they have to do the emergency C-section quicker than expected.
Or if something's wrong with her. We could only do the vacuum 3 times because basically it's suction on the baby's head, and the baby's head's still really sensitive. Yeah. So
well, when they say 3 times, I mean
during 3 contractions.
Yeah, so he can pull several times during a contraction.
I could push, like during contraction, you can push 3 to 4 times.
Yeah, so basically you could get up to 12 pulls with a vacuum before you're done with that.
So at this point, the doctor says that he is going to go ahead and do an episiotomy, which I think that if either of us had known that he was going to do an episiotomy in order to do the vacuum, that we wouldn't have went through with it, because with the risk of having a C-section, I didn't want to go through both, which we did have to have a C-section, but it was a maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So I really did not want to have an episiotomy. Basically, if you don't know what an episiotomy is, it's where they cut the area between your butt and your vaginal area.
This
from hole to hole
becomes this.
They cut you from hole to hole pretty much. And so he gave us Novocaine, lidocaine, whatever, which was like, I wish I had done that to begin with, because that was honestly like the most relief that I've had the entire time I was in the hospital. They proceeded with the episiotomy.
Yeah, basically the doctor wheels over this cart maybe 3 foot by 2 foot, and then unfolds the top part, and just an array of dangerous looking tools. Knives, saws, machetes.
I didn't see any of this.
Yeah, it was rough.
So at this point, like I said, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm exhausted. Like we've hardly slept the entire time that we're in the hospital. So I had been falling asleep during contractions. So he tells me, you're going to have to push harder than you've ever pushed in your life. And so I was very determined because I did not want to go through all of this and have to have a C-section. I realized it was probably looking really bad because Seth had to go off in the corner and sit down. And my mom kind of came and took over, and the nurse that had been taking care of me came to this side and helped me or whatever. So,
well, from what I saw, the doctor put this plastic blanket up under her, and it had a cup about basketball sized, and it was just filling up with blood. And the vacuum looks like a bow and arrow with a cup on one side. And so puts that on the baby's head and then pulls that bow and arrow handle back, and that's what causes the suction. Then he's able to pull with both hands.
So we did it through 3 separate contractions, and I was able to push 4 times in each contraction. And finally, on the last contraction, I heard a pop, and she was out. And it's true what they say that you don't forget. I remember like the pain or whatever, but I was completely lost in like the moment that she was actually here, that everything else that was going on, like while he was stitching me up and everything, I didn't think anything else about it.
So once Emma was out, they cut the cord.
My mom cut the cord.
I was still almost passed out in the corner
from all the blood.
So they take Emma over and like clean her off real quick. Do they give her to you first or take her over to
They gave her to me for a minute, and I did hold her against my skin, and my mom cut the cord, and then they took her off and started to clean her up. While I guess he was stitching me up at this point, or whatever. They clean her up and they bring her back, and while he's continuing to do this, they coaxed me into breastfeeding for the first time, which was fine. It was a great distraction. But I was exhausted. I had no idea what was going on.
Because he had to sew for quite a while.
He had to sew for quite a while. I had, along with the episiotomy, I had 4th degree tearing, which is pretty severe. So yeah. So at this point, Emma was born at 4:31 in the morning, and we were finally able to go up to the mother baby unit at 7. It was a little after 7 or whatever, but I was in a lot of pain.
You also had before the stitches, you had your afterbirth.
Oh yeah, I don't really remember that. I don't remember that at all.
You'd had so much lidocaine at that point that it was just whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember the afterbirth at all. The placenta coming out, I don't remember it.
And so before you were able to leave the delivery room,
I had to, before you can leave it there, they have to get you up and you have to pee. Which it's been like, a little less than 3 hours since I've delivered and been stitched up, and I'm still really nauseous. And so they get me up and I try to walk to the bathroom and I immediately get dizzy and puke everywhere. So that was fun.
And one thing I had not ever considered, or wasn't ever mentioned in any of the other videos we watched, was just how much blood there is days after all of this.
Well, yeah.
Like the drainage.
Oh yeah. When I got up from the bed, there was blood everywhere. But I mean.
So after all of this, we got to load up our luggage onto a little cart, and we went upstairs to the recovery room.
The mother baby unit.
Which was definitely much nicer than the delivery room.
The dad was incredible. The dad was incredible. And it wasn't as painful as being in labor for him.
So yeah, the nurse says, now the baby's going to sleep a lot this first day, so you should catch up on your sleep. And as soon as she left, every 15 minutes, somebody else comes in to do something. There was no sleep for at least, 4 or 5 hours after that.
Yeah. The photographer comes in and she said, like literally, we've been there in the recovery for an hour. And she says, I couldn't take pictures of you guys with your newborn. It's like, I've spent 32 hours, like, trying to get this child out of me. I look like dump.
None of us had showered in like 3 days.
Like, we haven't slept. We haven't showered. Like, we literally, like, I can barely stand, you know, like, come back tomorrow. Then they did, like, her hearing test, and she'd get a bath 24 hours later. They wanted to come in there at 4:30
in the
next morning and give her a bath, and we're like, are you stupid?
No.
So they came back at 10 at a reasonable time. She'd get her pictures made in the hospital and stuff, and we were able to do that. And we were able to leave actually that evening. So the day after she was born, which is great. That's pretty much.
Yeah, just a lot of recovery was like getting your first shower and being able to walk to the toilet pretty much on your own. And then so the days following, lots of pain.
Lots of pain, lots of hormones, lots of sleepless nights. Our first night here, we actually took 2-hour increments in which I would sit in here with Emma because she was just so, you know, difficult. And Seth would sleep, and then he would come in here and take over. Although he did end up getting more sleep because since I'm breastfeeding, he can't do that. I have to do that. He can't help with that.
So all in all, it was well worth it, maybe.
She's cute.
But definitely not the ideal birth that we were hoping for.
But we didn't have to have a C-section, so that was better. If we had to have all three, it probably would have been upsetting.
Yeah, if Emma had not popped out on the last attempt of that vacuum, you would have been recovering from 2 major surgeries.
Yeah.
At the same time.
It's been fun. We did have an incredible labor and delivery nurse. She was during the 4.5 hours we were pushing. Somebody came in to relieve her, and she refused to leave. And so we were really grateful to her for that. I actually sent her up some flowers. So she was absolutely incredible and held my hand while Seth was in the corner passing out. So, because he's a, can I say badge on your channel? He's a badge.
Well, you've already talked about it for the past 30 minutes.
Because he's a badge.
Oh my. Well, I think we're going to stop there. Unless you have anything else to add.
I don't think so.
The moral of the story is don't have children. No, just
adopt.
Kidding. Yeah, adopt.
No, I'm just kidding.
We love Emma very much, and we're so very glad that she's in our lives.
We just wish she'd sleep a little bit more.
Yeah. Now, Ashley's already told her that she has to live forever because it took forever to get her out.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to comment below, and we will read together and enjoy. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.